Hello and welcome to the webinar. Before we get started, I want to point out some of the resources you'll see on the right side of your screen. You can find links to Confluence, links to the template gallery with some of the templates that I'll be sharing during this presentation, and more information about how to get started. We will be recording this webinar and sending it out after the presentation, so feel free to send it to those who might have missed it. Feel free to ask questions with the QA box below. We have a group of people here to answer your questions as we go, and we'll do a live Q&A at the end with the most popular questions. I'm Claire, a Group Product Marketing Manager on Confluence, and I'm here from my work from home office in San Francisco. So back in March, I was on a backpacking trip in Patagonia. It was beautiful. I left on March 2nd, and I was really excited to get away from San Francisco city life and enjoy the freedom of the mountains. About a week into my trip, I got service and saw a notification from Atlassian. Before the trip, I was aware of the crisis, but I had no idea, like maybe many of you, that it would mean working from home from when I returned. Hopefully everyone listening right now is staying safe and healthy during these times. I found this stat when I was putting together this presentation, that even before this pandemic, 43% of employees are working remote with some frequency. I know at Atlassian, we're already very used to working on distributed teams, well before any of this happened. We're a global organization that has offices in the US, Australia, Europe, Asia, and other countries. So when I saw the announcement that we would be working from home, I wasn't exactly worried that we would have much trouble or that I wouldn't be able to get my projects done. Our teams are pretty used to working remote and familiar with the collaborative tools that help us stay connected and in sync from anywhere. I want to touch on our collaboration stack for just a second. I work on the marketing team at Atlassian. So on the communication side of our collaboration stack, we use Slack and Zoom for real-time communication, to chat or go on video calls. But the majority of our collaboration and communication is done using Confluence. Confluence is used to work asynchronously with teams across the globe. Our leadership teams, and actually every team at Atlassian, uses Confluence to also disseminate or broadcast information across the organization. Confluence also provides lasting knowledge as our source of truth. On the other side of the collaboration sphere, we have work management. These are the tools that we're using to move work forward. So we use Jira, Trello, and Confluence to plan, track, collaborate, and report across our projects. So today I'm excited to show you some of the practices that we use and how to set up Confluence to overcome some of the challenges you may face when working remote. Even after this pandemic, I hope this presentation helps you work better in any environment. So a few of the challenges we commonly see in remote teams, or honestly, any team, is struggling to find information. So whether it's your company OKRs or the agenda for your next team meeting, you don't have the luxury of tapping your colleague next to you for the information you need to get your job done. Secondly, when you're not co-located, it can be difficult to keep teams on the same page. You may have the best intentions to set a goal, delegate work, or try to keep everyone aligned, but sometimes this can become overwhelming when you're doing it virtually, or as projects scale and more people join the group. And of course, when you're sitting on a remote team, you don't always have that face-to-face communication time. So you have to find unique ways of collaborating and ideating with your team. And finally, one of the biggest pain points that I especially have been feeling is the isolation from your team and your company as a whole. When you start to feel disconnected, your motivation and happiness can decline. So today, I'll be walking you through some of the ways Confluence can help solve some of these remote work challenges. So we'll start with challenge 1, finding the information you need to get your job done. Building a source of truth can help your team feel confident that they know where to find the information they need. So currently, your team's information might be scattered across several different platforms, from email to chat to Dropbox folders or even announcements during a company meeting. It's easy for information to get lost, and this can cause a lot of pain for employees as they don't know where to go to find the right information. Especially if you're working on a remote team, it can feel like you're constantly pinging team members to send you files or documents that you might once have had but have since lost. Confluence can be set up as your single source of truth for every department in your org, and you can make it easy to organize and find information you need on the day-to-day. Having one place to store and organize all the information and work related to a team or project can make teamwork much more efficient. I'll give you an example of how this has been helping Atlassian during the COVID-19 crisis. You may have heard earlier talks from our people leaders about their response to COVID and how Atlassian has moved to full-time remote work. Confluence has really been at the heart of this shift with a resource we named OneSource. OneSource was the source of truth for our COVID response, remote work policies, and it even helped our people team communicate to everyone at Atlassian. Using Confluence, the people team could quickly get a ton of information and resources out to the entire org. They compiled a space here with child pages for everything from weekly founder updates, including videos, to office status and travel policy changes. This resource has not only helped employees stay up to date on COVID, but it has bred a sense of transparency and trust amongst the organization. It has been really incredible to work for Atlassian and have so much faith in our leaders during this time. The second part of the solution is having your source of truth or your knowledge base be open. Beyond getting that tops-down information from my leaders in Confluence, I want to be able to contribute, ask questions, and find information from any team. If you're familiar with Atlassian, you likely hear us talk a lot about open. We truly believe that all teams can do amazing things when they work open. So what do we mean when we say open? When you open up work, you're making information accessible to anyone in your company. You're seeking ideas and feedback, and you understand one another. Of course, it takes more than just tools to become an open company. However, having an open platform like Confluence can help. You can think of open like the trend to have open workspaces in a physical office. Historically, offices used to operate in a closed fashion, where executives or leaders would be locked behind closed doors. This caused hierarchical structures, and people were closed off and not motivated to collaborate. In modern times, we've built our physical workspaces to be open to encourage collaboration and information sharing, which inevitably leads to better thinking and ideas. Confluence is open by default, acting like an open physical workspace, yet it's virtual. In this virtual world, any employee is free to walk to another team's desk, understand what they're working on, and collaborate and ask questions. When you're working on a remote team, this is the type of workspace you want. You don't have the luxury of actually walking to someone's desk, so Confluence can act as your virtual office. We see this as a huge value in Confluence over other platforms that may lock information in folders that only certain people have access to. You want this information to be accessible and easy to find by everyone in your org. This can help break down team silos and information silos across the org and encourage cross-team collaboration and quicker response to change. Now, I'd like to show you a demo of how you can build a source of truth with Confluence for your own organization. So for anyone not familiar with Confluence-Cloud, this is the Confluence homepage. On this demo site, I can see all the spaces that I've starred and pages that I've recently worked on. On the right, I can see the popular feed and all the updates from across the organization. We'll touch more on this later. We recommend that you organize Confluence spaces by teams or important projects. So here we have a marketing team space, a people team, and the R&D team space. You can organize each team space like the team's website, giving it a homepage to share who they are, their goals, and more. Then use subpages to document all the related pages for that team, meeting notes, project plans, goals, etc. Here's an example of the people team space, which can act more like a knowledge base for all the important policies and information across the org. Here you can see benefits and perks, learning and development, workplace experience. If you want to create something like this for your team, we have a handy template called the homepage template. You can find it by clicking Create and navigating to the templates on the right side. Search for homepage, and you'll get a pre-filled out homepage template where you can add information about your team, resources your team uses every day, blog posts, and even a team calendar. This can act as the homepage for your space. Once you have this set up, I like to create parent pages for the space so that all future collaborators will know exactly where to add pages and keep everything organized. Here I'm going to create a parent page for projects. This indicates that I want people to add all future projects to this space. They can then use the contextual Create button to add projects underneath this page. So we've just covered the first challenge of remote work, struggling to find information. You can help your team by setting up a single source of truth so that people can easily find the information they need to get their work done. The next challenge many teams face is staying on the same page. When your team was sitting side by side, you were physically involved with everything happening on your team or on your project and who you were working with. Now it might feel like you're working in a vacuum. All of a sudden, trying to manage a big, hairy project that involves multiple teams can feel a lot more challenging. So if you're struggling to keep everyone on your team aligned and on the same page, we recommend that you work on creating a unified vision and setting deeper context for teams from the start. When you solely rely on communication channels such as Slack, the context can be lost or vague. With Confluence, you can communicate your vision or idea in a clear visual way, allowing everyone on the team to have a lasting understanding of the context. Imagine you're kicking off a project. Let's say it's a website redesign. This requires a lot of cross-team collaboration, from design, marketing, engineering, program management, and even maybe analytics. There are a ton of moving parts, people to update, and assets to gather. In a remote environment, it's important for everyone to have a context on the project at hand. They want to understand the problem, the goals, and their responsibilities. It's also important to keep your partners and your stakeholders in the loop as well. Confluence has a ton of useful templates available that can help guide your team in creating a unified vision for your project. On our new template gallery, you can find templates for HR teams, marketing teams, product management, and more. Two useful categories I would recommend checking out for helping you set a clear vision for your projects are in the business strategy and project planning categories. You can learn more about how to use each of these templates by clicking on the Learn More button, and you'll get a step-by-step guide to help you work through the template with your team. One quick side note is that we have a collection of templates for remote teams that you can find here as well. I will walk through many of these templates during the rest of the webinar, but feel free to check them out after. So if you already have a Confluence site, you can access these templates from within the Confluence UI, as mentioned. Hit the Create button, and you'll find the list of templates on the right side. One of our favorite templates we use here at Atlassian when kicking off a new project is the project poster template. This template will help you thoroughly describe the problem you're solving for, validate your assumptions, and then define your project scope. When you're done, all the need-to-know details will live in this simple collaborative document, so anyone can easily understand the context and the business case for your project. Once you have the project poster finalized and everyone has the context they need to start working, you can use other templates from the gallery to keep work moving forward during the project. We recommend you create these pages below the project poster. A few of the common templates that we use here at Atlassian are the project requirements template, decisions, and meeting notes. All of these templates use the page properties macro. This creates an index page to aggregate all of the requirements, decisions, and meetings related to your project. Keep a decision log of all the decisions you've made during the project so anyone can easily go back and understand why. Of course, you'll want to keep track of meeting notes and action items as you go. If your team works in sprints, you can also use this template to plan the goals of each sprint. And lastly, to keep stakeholders updated on the progress of your project, use the project status template. So you first want to set the vision for your project and make sure your team is aligned. Then use Confluence to continue to drive work forward while staying in sync with your team. So we've just covered how you can stay on the same page with your team. I shared a ton of different templates and I encourage you to go try those out after this webinar. We'll move on to the next challenge, effective collaboration. Collaboration and brainstorming with your team can sometimes fall by the wayside when you're working from home. Even though you may not be sitting next to each other, it's still possible to collaborate. That's another bonus of having a collaborative platform that allows for real-time and asynchronous collaboration. Your team can work on the same page together simultaneously and immediately riff off of others' ideas and contributions. So back to the website redesign. A redesign can have lots of stakeholders, lots of visibility. You need to have a way to collaborate and collect feedback. Throughout the project, there are going to be key times when collaboration is vital, such as creating wireframes, designs, thinking up messaging. Weekly meetings can help, but you also want to be able to work asynchronously with your team to continue to move work forward. Luckily, Confluence has some collaboration features that can help. First off, when you're on a Zoom call or on a video conference call with someone, you can always jump into a Confluence page and start working together and iron out the details at the same time. Here I'm working with Alana. She's updating the page status while I'm going to create some tasks. Confluence can both work in real time and asynchronously. I can add a task for Alana to send me her requirements and set a due date, and she can get back to me when she has time. I can also ask Max for his first version of the website design. When I mention them on the page, they will both be notified that I have assigned them a task and that there is a due date associated to it. Alana can then come back to the page and leave a comment for me when she's done her requirements. She can share that page in a comment and then mark her task as complete. Confluence is a great way to continue to collaborate even if you're not sitting next to each other or in the same time zone. You can collect feedback from a wider audience of stakeholders who need to sign off on this project. And finally, we've reached our last drawback of working remotely, and that is that it's lonely. You can start to feel isolated from your team and your company, which can be pretty demotivating. It's important to stay connected to your team, not only just for work, but for interpersonal reasons too. One way to combat the feeling of isolation when working remote is to create and maintain a virtual community. On Confluence, anyone can kick up a back and forth discussion across the company. The ability to leave comments and likes on pages makes people feel heard, valued, and connected no matter how far away they are. At Atlassian, our Confluence site is not only used for work-related documents, it's also a place to share and connect on a personal level. One of my favorite parts of Confluence is the popular feed on the new homepage. The popular feed lets you keep up to date on what's happening across your company based on likes and comments on the page. At Atlassian, the popular feed is filled with all kinds of posts, like blog posts, intro blogs, people's experience working remotely, celebration of team wins, even promotions. As I mentioned, As I mentioned, blogging is a great way for people and teams to continue to share about themselves and their work. At Atlassian, we use blogging somewhat like a newsletter. This is our Marketing United newsletter that our CMO, Robert Chatwani, uses to keep all marketers up to date on the progress of the department. It offers a summary of all the team's progress, more details on each development, and an area for one team member to stand out in the spotlight. We use this for marketing, but this template can really be adopted and adapted by any team. We actually turned this blog into a template that anyone can use. You can find it again using the Create button and searching for Marketing United. I can say personally that this blog helps me stay connected to our marketing team and learn about other members on the team who I might not have met yet. Phew. Okay, so we've gotten through a lot of the challenges that we see remote teams face. And even when teams are not remote, we see these same issues arise. To solve some of these challenges, you can use Confluence. As a recap, you can use Confluence to work more openly. So break down team silos by allowing everyone access to the information and knowledge from across the org. Build a central source of truth so people know where to go to get the information they need to do their work. Set a unified vision and deeper context for your projects to keep everyone on the same page. Effectively collaborate throughout your work. And lastly, create a virtual community so people feel heard and engaged. And remember, Confluence is even more powerful when all of your teams and departments are using it. We have templates for every team, so I encourage you to share these with your team members and help them get more power out of Confluence. That's the end of my presentation, but before I close, I want to remind you that you can visit the Atlassian Remote Hub, where you can find all sorts of resources for remote teams, including some discounts on products for those who need it during these demanding times. As a reminder, all of our products, Confluence, Jira, and Trello, all have free plans, so please check them out. So I want to thank you for sitting through this presentation, and we're going to open it up for live questions now. Thanks.